Hi guys, my name is Mahesh. Welcome to this video where I walk you through step by step the AI automation I've built to help my friend's company in Finland land really highly qualified prospects in the business of infrastructure. So they sell software for large construction companies, large infrastructure providers, think railroads, roadways, and so on. So what I've built is a first campaign where we have scraped about 2,500 leads that fit a certain criteria. They're all coming into my Airtable, which is my CRM. So for those that are not familiar with Airtable, Airtable is like Google Sheets made for the modern world with so much more functionality. I'm pretty new to it, so I'm learning a lot as I go along. But for this project, this works pretty well. So let me quickly show you the output of what the automation system actually builds. So this first campaign, we start from Apollo. You just go to apollo.io. You have a free account. You can filter, using different filters, and then you get your first set of leads, right? There is some intelligence behind how you should do it, which I'll say for another video, where you basically want to find prospects that are actually searching for your solution or the category of your solution. And the way we did this for my friend's company is based on what I call buying signals. So we came up with different buying signals for him and we mapped that out and then either found those exact filters or decoy filters that match those buying signals, which is the best guess that they should have this buying signal with higher probability degree. And then we found this list, right? And this list they have millions of people on the database. So this is just a small little sample that we're starting with. So the whole automation starts by you clicking on this little tick box over here that says start lead qualification. And this can be automated, of course, but for this purpose of this demo, I'm doing it manually. So it starts with this little tick box and changing this to yet to be enriched. And what this does, it triggers an automation, as you can see, that it changes the status to whether it's going to be a qualified lead or a did not qualify lead. So what do we mean by that? So for instance, in this case of my friend's company in Finland, he doesn't want to work with anybody that is in Sweden because they already have a business in Sweden. He doesn't want to do this test in Sweden, right? So if the company, for instance, is in Sweden, as you can see over here, this is a Swedish company, then you don't want to send them an email. So then they're disqualified. So this is automatically done in an automation, which I'll show you. So that's the first step. You want to focus on, even if you get a long leads list from Apollo with all the filters, it's not going to be perfect. So you want to apply your own filters to begin with. So you want to make sure that you're targeting people that fit your campaign criteria. So I like to think in campaigns because it sort of gives you clarity on how you can run and who you're targeting, right? So here you can see different information over here. And as you go towards the right, there's the next part of the automation starts when I click on this tick box that says start lead enrichment. So what this basically does is it runs two automations simultaneously. The first automation is scraping their entire website. Then it classifies the most important URLs from this website. For instance, anything that talks about their projects that they've done, if they won a bid, if they won awards, and so on, right? So this scrapes the website, targets the most important URLs. And then the second, in parallel, what happens is it scrapes the person's LinkedIn and the company LinkedIn and tries to figure out what is an interesting, important, relevant event that has happened either in the lead's life or the prospect's life or in the company's life that the prospect is associated with. So if you're lower down in a large organization, you kind of don't care about things that are happening 4 or 5 levels above you. So we try to really triangulate things that are most interesting for this lead from their LinkedIn and from their personal LinkedIn and from their company LinkedIn. Sometimes people don't post a lot on their personal LinkedIn, then the company LinkedIn is the fallback, right? So what we've done is we've created an A version, which is the website email, a B version, which is the LinkedIn personalized email, and a C version, which is which I'm calling the final email copy, but should be called something else, which combines the two and takes the best out of the both and creates a new email copy. Okay, and that is automatically triggered if I change this from website scraped, LinkedIn scraped to combo email. If I do that, then you're going to see that there's a text that appears in 40 seconds or something that takes the best of both of these different text. And then finally, if I click on this little tick box and add the instantly campaign ID, which is where I'm hosting my outbound campaigns, then the email is sent. And once that is sent, I look at the follow-ups when it's sent, which is plugged in the latest message date. There's a follow-up status. Then I know if they've opened or replied, and if they've had a meeting that is booked, and what the link of the meeting is. Because if you're doing this on scale and you have lots of different salespeople, you want to have it all organized in one place. So my data Airtable is where it all comes together. So hopefully, as you saw, by click of two tick boxes, you start the whole process. The first tick box qualifies. The second tick box, it does the scraping, finds the personalization, and writes the personal email. I just realized that I didn't show you the actual email. So let's look at that before I show you the actual automation. So I'm using my wife's Mac for recording this. I'm not used to Mac, and it's been a very long time. So sorry if I'm struggling to find things. I built this using my Chromebook. But yeah, let's take this example. So transforming infrastructure with InfraKit is the subject line. Hi, Kieran. Impressed by J. Murphy and Sons' dedication to innovation. This is probably a bad one, actually, because maybe J. Murphy and Sons is that's how probably the company is called. Because a lot of times I get emails saying, "Hey, I see that you work for Moonrise LLC," right? And it's like, who says that? So what we have to avoid that is something called the clean company name. Let me just show you that. So we have a column called clean company name because you don't want LLC, you don't want AB, you don't want GmbH, you don't want PLC to go into the email because no human writes like that, right? So my goal for building this automation has been how can we create the most human sounding email where it feels like you've spent 20 to 30 minutes researching this person and trying to build a relationship, and you're not being transactional. You're not trying to say, let's get on a meeting, because who wants to get on a meeting with somebody that you've never met? Most likely not, right? So cold outbound email has the least trust, and you want to build trust and show value. So I kind of compare it like to ads. So if you do ads, you don't want people to just buy because they don't trust you yet, unless you're selling something super cheap or selling something that people understand the category or know you as a brand. So since this is cold outbound, there's low trust, you want to really make sure that the sell is soft, right? So my emails are focused on saying, do you want to get a video? Do you want to get a case study? There's some kind of value. So let's look at this example together. Hi, CN. I've admired United Living's inspiring mission to create a sustainable and connected future, and your notable commitment to delivering social value, which echoes in your 3.3 million contribution. This is pretty good, if you ask me, because they've really, the AI has really done the job of finding specifics that are personal, right? Much like United Living, InfraKit strives to contribute to a more sustainable construction sector. This beautiful segue, right? So they're really trying to find angles based on the person's interest or what the company's been doing that relates to the person. This is from the LinkedIn. So it says, I saw that J. Murphy and Sons just celebrated their colleagues at the annual Acorn Awards, a testament to living strong company values. Beautiful. So there's some kind of an award that has happened the last 3 months. That's the filter, 3 to 6 months. 6 months if it's a job change, and like if it's an important milestone, like a funding event or an award or something that they won, then it's I believe it's 3 months. So congrats on the new project milestone. Hi Jacob, congrats to Bal for Betty on commencing the South Wokingham Distributed Road project. It's fantastic to see such commitment to enhancing local infrastructure. Yeah, I mean, obviously not everything is going to be 100%. Some are going to be hit and miss, but we are fine tuning the model together, and that's the whole point, right? Because you're doing this at scale. So when you do this enough times, you will get pretty good response rates, so this is very good. So there's a lot of personalization that's done at scale. Okay, so this is sort of the output you can expect. So literally a couple of tick boxes over here to start the lead enrichment, one tick box to start the whole qualification process. So you want to make sure that you're not working with unqualified customers, and then you get the emails, and that is connected to instantly, and off it goes. Okay. So I'll see you in the workflows. So let's dive straight into that. So for the workflows, we're going to use the following tools. We're going to use NA10. We're going to use some code blocks, and we're going to use obviously Airtable and Appify. So let me walk you through. So the first part of there are 4 steps over here, or actually 5, but yeah, in my head it's sort of 4 because the scraping part from lead website or LinkedIn is just branches of the same step. You can obviously add anything more to this. You can add industry news, you could add newsletters, you could add Google Maps, you could add whatever, like you could scrape whatever. And Apify is like the best scraping platform out there because you can scrape literally anything. And let me walk you through that. So the first step is the lead gen step, where you go from Apollo to Apify to Airtable. As I said, we did this manually, and I recommend you to start manually if you're starting outbound. If you're doing outbound a lot and use Apollo or similar tools like that, you know how it works. But basically what we've done over here in this first is connect all the tools, so the data comes automatically into Airtable. So when I click, in this case testing workflow, because I'm showing it to you, it goes into Apollo. It takes my filter from a preset URL, and then it retrieves the data set, and then it goes into my Airtable. Okay, so I'm not going to show you this. As I said, I assume most of you watching this just getting started with outbound and some kind of scraping. In that case, as I said, I recommend you to get started manually with Apollo. Just go to apollo.io, use their SaaS tool. It's very simple. You'll get a URL on top, and then you can scrape that. Okay, or you can just download that from Apollo, because you can do that. There's some limits in terms of your free plans and paid plans, but to get started, that's what I would do. That's what I would do. Then then this is where we do the lead qualification. So over here, it all starts with a webhook, and the webhook, you have, test URL and production URL. So in Airtable, you can go into automations over here. And over here, I've set up different automations that automatically happen when you click on the tick box. So in this case, as you can see, when I click on the tick box that says start lead qualification and the status is yet to be enriched, I want this automation to run. And the way I get that to run is to run a script in Airtable. And you can literally, you can ask your AI to write the script, but that's literally what I did. You're adding the URL of your actual webhook here. You would start with adding the test URL, right? So which is here. And once you've tested the whole workflow, you can click on the production URL and you can copy paste that and put that in. So as you can see over here in my Airtable database, I have the production URL, but you'd start off by adding the test URL. Once you do that, so you get the webhook. So basically what this does is it takes the data from Airtable. So it knows which customer you're trying to do this for, because you want to pass the data of which customer name, email, and so on that you've scraped, right, from Airtable. Which customer are we trying to get the data of, right? So that's where this starts. So in this case, when I click on the little tick box over here that says start lead qualification and change the status to yet to be enriched, this runs the execution. Okay. So you're going to see that in a second. So if you come to executions over here, you'll see that it's running the execution, and it's running, and it takes, I don't know, a few seconds. And this execution runs and it's complete. And then you get the data in Airtable, which is what I'm going to show you in a second. So what this does is you can add the filters over here through an if node. And the if node is very simple. You're basically looking at the data of the in our case, location. That was the only filter he wanted. You can obviously add any other filter. So if it's a filter, for instance, like job title, if it's a filter like, or anything else, you can add an if node. And then we look at the company's LinkedIn here. This is a very small scraping that we do because we're not looking for the whole data. So we're looking at the company scraping, and we want to really make sure this company is qualified, meaning this company has certain things that are relevant for our customer, for my friend's company in this case, which is basically that they have a certain size in terms of revenue, they have a certain number of employees, they are in this country, and you just want to double check that, right? So you don't want to, again, spam people. You want to be really personalized. And then you remove all the HTML from the LinkedIn page that you scrape. By the way, the company scraper, you don't need any cookies or anything, so you're completely safe. So I just use a get HTTP method over here, and you get all the data over here, okay? And once you do that, you can remove the HTML from the LinkedIn page. Then you'll analyze the company's LinkedIn. And then you want to really check, is this analysis true that this company has some kind of focus on construction and infrastructure in this case, and this company has some focus on sustainability and digitalization, which were the, again, parameters my friend wanted to use, which we came together on, were the important buying signals that qualify if a company is ready to engage in them. So if they're not interested in sustainability, they're below a certain revenue threshold, they're not interested in digitalization, they're probably not going to buy his service, you know? So you want to avoid wasting time, right? So, and if it is, they get added, the status gets changed to cold qualified. And if they're not, the status gets changed to lost DNQ. So this is the first part of the automation, which over here that just happened that you saw, where this status gets changed and it's all checking in the background and the data is saved. So you know that, you're going after a qualified lead. All right. So once we've scraped and qualified, rather, once you've qualified the person to be relevant based on the parameters that you need to come up with, and you know that this is a relevant lead, because you don't want to be wasting your domain authority on people that are not relevant to you. So I'd really recommend you to niche down and focus on the most relevant leads. I have a video on how to niche down if you're interested. But basically, once you've done that, you're going to start this webhook, which starts the website scraping. It pulls the lead from the Airtable, again, based on the same logic. Let me just quickly show you. So you come into automations, and here you see that what I've done is, if the lead qualification is ticked, so you want to start rather, if the lead qualification is ticked and the status is cold qualified, so you want to just focus on the qualified leads, and you, the admin or the runner, has said, I want this lead to be enriched, tick box, then you start the automation. Of course, you can do this completely automated. You don't even need to do this step. So as soon as the status is cold qualified, you can start the automation. I decided to do this way because I feel I want to have control on looking at the output. So I do 100 a day, because that's a lot, and it takes me like half an hour to do 100. And I want to make sure that 100 are really qualified and we're really getting out the right emails, right? So as you scale, obviously this can be, this can be much more, you can completely automate it. So as you can see over here, as we are working through, the scraping has been going on. So let me just walk you through what happens step by step. So, or maybe it's even better if you look at the actual output of the scraper, so that we just started scraping, so you can see in real time what has happened. I've not seen this myself, so it's going to be exciting. So NA10 has this wonderful feature where you can go look at every execution like make.com or Zapier, and that makes it easy because then you can see if there's any error, if you need to solve it. Okay, let's go in step by step. So it says pull lead from Airtable, and over here it's pulled a lead. You can see that it's got the first name, last name, and it's true. It's called qualified. Yeah, so everything about this person is over here, right? So that's how it gets started, the whole Airtable database. Then we clean and store the lead details. So you have to understand that every time you call your AI calls, it costs tokens, and you want to find the least amount of tokens. You want to use the least amount of tokens to get the best amount of output. And one of the best ways to control it is to make sure the input coming in is really clean. So what we do in this part is we want to clean our lead details. So we want to say take out things. For instance, if they have the full name, you want to really make sure they're only talking about you're only getting their first name. If they have things like Inc., LLC, LTD, GmbH, AB, Corp, Group, SABV, whatever, right? You want to take that all out, and you want to really have just a clean company name, right? Because then that makes it sound human. So this is a very important part of the personalization. And then once you've done that, you're going to go in here and you're going to look at their website and you're going to scrape their entire data, right? So here you can see that the entire website is scraped. Once you do that, you're going to remove all the HTML because, as I said, you want to input clean content. So if you see over here, you can see that the HTML is much more cleaner. So you can see everything that was scraped. This seems to be a company from Netherlands. Then you're going to filter the HTML. So this filter basically gives you, all the URLs that the company has. So this filters the HTML. Once you filter the HTML, you're going to look at, well, there's a little code step over here where I've turned them into one. So you have different URLs and you want to pass that as one input into the LLM model, which is OpenAI. And here I've asked the prompt over here is you're given a list of URLs. Extract the URLs that are the most relevant and most important that can be enriched. Okay, and then I've given them a selection criteria. Again, this needs to be written by you based on the company or prospect. Yeah, so this is important. You get this right. You can ask AI to help you write this. That's what I did. And we did this together with my friend Timo, who runs his company. So he knows obviously his customers, and together with AI, we can massage it, right? And then once you get that, you split it out. So you don't want all the URLs in one go. You want it in different rows, because then you get a HTTP request, and then you can start crawling this again, right? So you go URL by URL. So they have the history URL over here, and that's the output. And you see you got 4 outputs from 4 different pages. Okay. And once you do that, you're going to remove the HTML again. Same concept. You're going to remove any duplicates because you don't want to go after the same people. And then you're going to analyze their company and mission, which is an LLM model over here. You're going to analyze their offerings and positioning. You're going to analyze process and differentiation. You're going to analyze proof of success. And all of them are separate LLM tokens and separate LLM nodes, because you don't want your AI you don't want too much dynamic input to your AI. In my experience, you get much more higher chances of hallucination, and there's a higher chance of bad output, basically, because you want the output to be really controlled. You want it to do one job, and you want it to do it really well. Okay. So once it does that, then you put this in a code block, and the code block basically takes all this data and puts it all in one place, and then you write the email. So in this case, you can see that an email has been written over here, and you can see that, again, you have to give proper prompts, and you can see it takes all the data from all the different steps: the clean company name, the mission, the offering, the differentiators, the case studies, the website insights, everything is over here. There's something wrong over there. There's no proof or website case studies in their data in their website, so there's nothing passed in this case. So if there was like a case study, that would have been green. In this case, maybe they don't have a website with all their case studies, so they don't have that, right? And then here is the output. Okay, so this is an email, and this output then is then saved into Airtable in the column that is titled, you match it with your ID, and then you have a column that is titled clean company name and the website final, or the company website email copy, because this is scraping their website. Okay, so to reiterate, you're scraping their website by looking at the most interesting, most relevant URLs. You're filtering them out. You're passing clean HTML. You're cleaning up the HTML, passing clean text. Then you're putting them into different LLM models, which analyzes the mission, vision, offerings, position, process differentiation, proof of success. And then you get one, and it gets it all into one LLM, and that LLM writes the mail, right? And then it goes into your Airtable. So this is the first step of the scraper. Let's look at the next step, which is the LinkedIn part. All right, so this step is the LinkedIn scraping step. So what we're going to go together is we're going to look at how this automation scrapes the leads LinkedIn. The way this execution starts is very similar again. It runs from Airtable and basically it waits for the website enrichment step to finish because you don't want your AI to have too many inputs at the same time. So once the lead is qualified, the lead enrichment box is ticked, and the company website email copy is not empty, meaning the website scraping has been done and there's some output. If there's no output, there's no website, it says no output, so that's still, it's not empty, right? Then the LinkedIn scraper starts. And the LinkedIn scraper is pretty straightforward. It's similar to what we did, but just that it goes with LinkedIn and you use API to scrape LinkedIn because you have some proxy issues, especially if you're scraping personal profiles of LinkedIn, and you want to be careful, right? Because LinkedIn can ban you. So again, the webhook is where it all starts with Airtable. You pull the data from Airtable, and then you go into a LinkedIn company scraper. The LinkedIn company scraper is just a get call, and you just put the company URL, which you take from the previous step from your Airtable, and that's it. And then you scrape the data. Then you remove HTML from the LinkedIn page because you want it to be clean. Let me actually show you an execution because it's better. Let's see, LinkedIn scraping. Yeah, there was a scraping that happened here. I think it's better if I show you an actual execution, right? So you see actual data coming out. Okay, so here we see that the company that was scraped was, let's see, Mativ Davies. So the company was Kier, and this is the output we get. Okay, it's not super readable, but you get the idea. Then you remove the HTML, so now it's much more readable, just the text, right? So obviously it's an infrastructure company. You get some cookie stuff, and then you can see everything that goes into here, right? So you can see, yeah, lots of different posts and the profile of the company is here. Then you're going to take relevant info from the company LinkedIn. So here it says company's mission, vision, alignment with activities, because this is, again, you want it to be aligned to what you're trying to do, and you want to focus on people that are interested and that are ready. You don't want to move the stone uphill. You want it to go as fast as possible downhill in terms of the sales part, so you don't have to convince people why your category is needed. So that's what that does. Then it takes the key insights and cleans it up, which is a simple recursive function. Then you scrape the lead LinkedIn. So here it goes and scrapes. This is where we use API. So I use a wonderful API actor called LinkedIn Profile Scraper. You would need to you need to log into LinkedIn and put in your cookie. So I use a Chrome extension called Edit This Cookie, and you get the cookies, you just copy paste it. And once you copy paste it, it uses your profile. So you need to be careful because what you want it to do is to have a proxy, because you don't want it to you don't want your LinkedIn to be banned, because if you scrape too much, your LinkedIn will be banned. So there is a wait duration that you can set over here, and you can yeah, basically make sure that you have a proxy turned on, and it does the job. And this costs money, so there's a trial, and then you rent it for $25 a month, and then it keeps it keeps working behind the scenes for you, so there's no problem at all. So there is a trial, and it's $25 a month. I use this LinkedIn Profile Scraper by Curious Coder, and I really like it so far. If I change it, I'll let you know, but for now, this is the Appify I use. And over here, it does the job behind the scenes. By the way, you need to have an API. So you would read the best advice I can give you is take 5 minutes or more, 15 minutes, and read the API endpoints. So you need to click on API and endpoints, and you'll get all the APIs over here. And I would take the run actor synchronously and get data set items. So what it does is it runs and it doesn't produce the output till all the data is ready. And that's good because it saves you steps in your execution steps in your NHN, which is cheaper for you. And it makes sure that you get all the data before it goes into your LLM step. So your LLM is also getting all the data to process, right? So I would really take this post, and you have all the instructions here. It's very straightforward. You just want to make sure that the JSON has the cookie from the LinkedIn, and you're calling the right URL with the post method, and you have your API key, right? And that's about it. I mean, it's not complicated. And then if you're, by the way, the best advice I can give you here is if you get stuck, take the error message, put it in your in the tool, AI tool of your choice, and vibe code with it, and you'll always figure it out. It might be frustrating because you might end up in loops with the AI giving you like one solution and then it takes you to another error and so on and so forth. But it's part of the game. Yeah, enjoy it. And the AI can save you a lot of time in terms if you give it the right error message you're getting. So then once you get the LinkedIn of the lead and you get the LinkedIn of the company, you want this to go into the AI, and you basically get it to analyze. And here you can see that it analyzes and gives you sort of different things. Most of individual people's LinkedIn is pretty empty, so you need to really work with both the company LinkedIn and the individual LinkedIn. Now I take all the LinkedIn data and fuse it into one, again, to save tokens. I get the clean company name. So you do this check one more time because it's such an important part of the personalization. You find key highlights from both the personal LinkedIn and the lead LinkedIn. So in this case, it says just a week ago, Kier Group celebrated you know. Matt Davis is currently spearheading sustainable constructions. Beautiful. Key Group recently marked a significant achievement by opening some kind of a UK's first all-electric prison. Beautiful. So this is all interesting information. Then you found key highlights, and then you clean that up, and then you finalize the copy. And this is the final copy, and this is what he sees, right? And if you pass this on to Airtable. So when you do this, all of a sudden your Airtable looks very beautiful because you have both LinkedIn message ready, and you have your company website ready, company website email ready. And this is a great place to start with an A/B test. So you have the LinkedIn and the company website, or you can obviously fuse them into one and do a combo like we're doing ABC test. So yeah, this is the flow. Then the final step is actually to send it, and that requires you to set up an instantly, or you can use any email sender. We use instantly, and it takes about 14 to 21 days to warm up your inbox. And I would not recommend you to skip that step, even though it's a painful 21 days to wait. So, or 14 days. You want to make sure your health score is really high and your domain reputation is safe, because you want your emails to be landing in the primary inbox, and instantly helps you with that. Once you do that, you set up a campaign, and then you connect the campaign ID here, and you're all ready to go. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward if you ask me. And then I've set up a simple email sending automation. I've kept it inactive for now because I'm just finishing up the next batch of campaigns. So until that, I don't want the automation to run. But basically, with these automations, you can get leads en masse. You can write personalized emails en masse that feel really personal. You can do follow-ups en masse that feels really personal. And finally, it leads to either more meetings, more email, more engagement in your inbox that leads to more sales. You can get people to your events. You can get people. You can raise capital. You can get more sales. Reach your customers, reach your prospects, really nurture them. And the best advice I can give you from doing this from not for too long, but what I've learned running sales in general, is you want to build relationships. And a lot of times, a lot of the cold emails I get are just pure transactions, and they are trying to be friendly, but it just feels very sharky. So you want to really genuinely be friendly, and you really want to get that in your LLM, that you really want to build relationship. And in every LLM prompt, you want to write that you want to build relationship, you want to be warm, you want to be friendly, you don't want to be aggressive, you don't want to be, and that's at least my style. And yeah, I hope you enjoy these automations, and I hope you enjoy the setup. So Airtable, AP5, NA10, Apollo, and instantly these 5 tools cost less than $100 a month. You're off and running, and you can really start seeing results on the other side within a couple of weeks. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.